Good morning, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We once again begin in Mexico. To Mexico, where the government of Guerrero State confirms another mass kidnapping. The crime came before the abduction of 43 students from Ayotzinapa in September. French TV channel France 24 broke this news Wednesday based on testimonies of various witnesses, including that of a mother of one of the victims. The 31 teenagers were allegedly kidnapped in July while leaving school. Witnesses say the kidnappers were wearing blue uniforms and driving patrol cars. The interim governor of Guerrero, Rogelio Ortega, accuses local officials of knowing about the incident and failing to denounce it. Meanwhile, back in Mexico City, President Enrique Peña Nieto has announced a 10-point security action plan. It comes at the time when he is under fire due to failure of the government to find the 43 missing Ayotzinapa students and following both national and international criticism of his administration's security policies. Peña Nieto's 10-step program will focus on strengthening law enforcement and stop collusion between government officials and local gangs. And in the United States today, millions of frantic shoppers will hit the stores as part of the traditional Black Friday shopping day. But not everyone embraces this consumer-oriented day. In Ferguson, Missouri, a group of protesters have called on a nationwide boycott of the day. Organizers want to raise awareness of the death of black teenager Michael Brown and a decision by a grand jury this week to not indict the police officer who shot him. Protesters showed up in front of various department stores across the country last night and this morning to interrupt shoppers and draw attention to their cause. To Colombia, tensions remain high before the expected release of General Rubén Darío Alzate and two others who were detained by FARC rebels. Defense Minister Juan Carlos Pinzón says there is no justification for the FARC to delay Alzate's release until Sunday. Originally, the two sides had agreed to release the general Saturday. FARC leaders say the government is violating the agreement because military operations are still ongoing Thursday evening in the area where Alzate is to be freed. It is still unclear when the peace talks will be resumed. And in Uruguay, it appears former President Tabaré Vázquez is on his way to winning in the second round of presidential elections on Sunday. Opinions polls show Vázquez well ahead of his opponent, Luis Lacalle, from the right-wing National Party. Vázquez is a member of the ruling Broad Front coalition. He previously served as president of Uruguay from 2005 to 2010 and was the first to bring a leftist government to power in the country. During his time in office, he oversaw job creation and poverty reduction, but also implemented pro-market economic policies. Vázquez is from the same political party as outgoing President José Mujica. And in Brazil, President Dilma Rousseff has chosen a new finance minister for the country. Banker Joachim Levy will step into his new position on January 1st. He delivered an accepting speech pledging to implement fiscal measures aimed at increasing growth and recovering investors' confidence. Levy is currently the head of asset management for Brazil's second largest private bank, Bradesco S.A. He also previously served as the country's former Treasury Secretary and as a researcher for the International Monetary Fund. Today in Bolivia, President Evo Morales will open the Group 77 plus China Summit in the southern city of Tajira. The leaders from the world's largest union of developing nations have placed environmental issues on the top of their agenda this weekend. Some of the key items to be discussed will be sustainable development and how to manage natural resources, particularly non-renewables. More than 40 out of the 134 member countries will attend the summit. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro says his government will continue its campaign around the world to stabilize the price of oil at $100 per barrel. The current price is stalled at $72. Venezuela is fighting for a reduction in the oil output of OPEC member nations. The president estimates that the oil price slump has curbed Venezuela's revenues by up to 40%, but he assures Venezuelans that their basic needs will still be covered. And after OPEC's failure to reduce the cap on production, oil prices hit a new 4-year low at around $72 a barrel this Friday. The 12 OPEC member countries resisted the temptation to cut back oil production following the more than 30 recent plunge in prices since June. Iran, Russia, and Venezuela will be the countries more largely affected by the decision since their economies rely on oil sales. U.S. ally Saudi Arabia blocked calls from poorer members to take measures to bolster the oil price.
In the interest of
To the Middle East, the United Nations has declared a state of emergency in Gaza City on Thursday after heavy rainfall led to severe flooding. The impact of the floods are even more severe considering thousands of homes were destroyed by Israeli bombs during the war last summer, leaving thousands of Palestinians homeless. Now, according to the UN, over 7,000 people in the region of Gaza City lost their homes during the bombardment, while hundreds have now been forced to evacuate due to the flooding. The UN says the devastation from the flood has exacerbated the already poor humanitarian situation in Gaza in the aftermath of war. In France, lawmakers are debating a motion aimed at urging the government to officially recognize Palestine as a state. Sweden recently became the first European country to take the historic step. The symbolic motion will be voted on December 2nd and is expected to pass comfortably. The vote comes on the heels of a similar resolution approved by British and Spanish lawmakers. EU lawmakers are also debating the recognition of Palestinian statehood and are expected to vote next month. The EU's recognition could come as a clear denouncement of Israel. UK's Prime Minister David Cameron is delivering a speech this Friday morning that is designed to breathe a new life into his campaign to be re-elected in May. And he is addressing the top concern of Britons, which is immigration. He is telling citizens he wants EU migrants in work to have to wait 4 years before they can access welfare benefits, and for unemployed EU migrants not to be eligible for any help from the British state at all. If re-elected, he has promised to renegotiate Britain's ties with the EU before giving Britons an in-out membership referendum in 2017.
It's also worth remembering it's not just Formula One. I had a reception at
We have plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. I hope you have a great Friday.